Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Jason down here at Firearms Unknown in Yuma, Arizona, and today I'm very excited to talk a little bit about Chiappa firearms. When you think of revolvers, Chiappa is that company that's out there just paradigm breaking, out of the box thinking, and they're innovating. They're making new and exciting stuff. Now, these particular firearms that you're going to see that we're going to talk about today, specifically the Chiappa White Rhino 200DS, the original design of these guns came out in about 2008. Now, Chiappa is an Italian company. The particular gun that you see in front of us, the current Chiappas that you see, were designed by Emilio Gazzoni and Antonio Codazzo. Now, those two gentlemen, this is kind of their ultimate design, but this stylistically does follow Emilio Gazzoni's original design of the Mateba auto revolver. He passed away in 2008, so he finally kind of got to see the fruition of all his work come out before he passed. Now, Chiappa Bulldog 200DS. Phenomenal carry revolver. Now, a lot of people are kind of moving away from the revolver guns just because we haven't seen a lot of innovation or change in the shootability of those firearms really in our contemporary history, other than what Chiappa has been doing. Now, when we talk about that, what we mean is a more shootable 357 that's in 2-inch or 3-inch or 4-inch or whatever that you're looking for. And how do you do that? Now, what Chiappa's done is through their design, ergonomics, and things like that, they have actually taken a gun that's been kind of a little bit of a snappy firearm, even for just about anybody to shoot, and made it much more comfortable to shoot just through some really cool innovations. And we're going to talk about that today. So as you can see, I do have the White Rhino 200DS right here in front of me in 357. I got my cylinder open, but we're going to go ahead and we'll just double check everything and make sure that we're clear and empty. Nothing in there, so we're good to go. Now, when you see this firearm, you're going to see that it doesn't look like most of the contemporary revolvers that we see. They really have their own look and their own style. Now, most of that comes out of some sort of form for function, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Now, you can see right off the bat that the grip is different than anything we'll see usually on most of our revolvers, even our police specials that have kind of that really narrow grip. This is still ergonomically a bit different. The gun is insanely strong, and the reason is because the whole frame is CNC machined out of a solid block of high tensile aluminum known as ergal, and it's insanely strong, very good. It comes out of one piece of billet. All the grains are running together. They do a phenomenal job. Now, all the internals in this gun are also CNC'd out of metal or steel, so real solid build. And when you run this gun, you feel the action, you feel the trigger and everything like that. You can tell that it's like, I've compared it almost to like a Swiss watch. It's so smooth and buttery, and I hate to say the words, but if you think of like a Beretta run back, think of like the smoothness of a Beretta in a revolver, and that's kind of what you're getting here. But I don't want to compare the two because Chiappa is definitely their own thing, doing their own stuff. So we talked about the frame and how that's done. We look at the cylinder on this gun, you can see that it is done in an octagon pattern. And what that's really cool about is when that gets in the gun, you get a flat side on either side of the gun. So it does actually limit the print of the firearm. Now, when we talk about all the innovation of Chiappa, one of the first things that they did, which is what really makes the gun super shootable, is instead of firing off the 12 o'clock or the top cylinder position, this fires off the bottom or 6 o'clock position. So what does that do? That lowers your bore axis in the gun significantly. On most of your contemporary revolvers, your bore axis is sitting up inch and a half above your hand when you have the proper grip. With a Chiappa, with the low bore axis, so firing off the 6 o'clock position, you can see the actual barrel line of this gun is right where my index finger is running. So if you look at that in a grip, you can see that as that energy comes back, that's going to come right back into my wrist and right into my radius and ulna, and it's going to make the gun way more controllable. I'm not going to have nearly as much muzzle flip. So by lowering the bore axis, they've made this gun insanely shootable. And that's in this very short model. If you can imagine putting that in a 6-inch or an 8-inch, those guns have almost no recoil, firing a full 158 grain mag load on 357. So some of the other things that they've done. We talked about the cylinder, we talked about the frame. Let's talk about the firing mechanism. So what this really has in it is an internal hammer system. You see this, what appears to be a hammer on the top of the gun, but that's really not. What that is a linkage to the actual hammer that's inside the firearm. And we'll talk about how that works and what you can do with that while you're firing the gun. One of the other big innovations that they have made is where they located their cylinder release. So most guns, you'll see it's either a push forward or a pull to the rear on the frame area there. Instead, they've put it up here where, while maintaining fire control, I can reach up with that fire control thumb, push and open that cylinder up without coming off fire control. Reach, get my speed loader, reload, press to click, and be ready to go again. Now, this particular model is a single action, double action system. So kind of blow your mind real quick for people that haven't seen this before, but you see the hammer here, we're sure we're clear and empty, and we're just gonna give that a nice trigger pull, and you're gonna notice that that hammer doesn't rotate. Because it's just a linkage to the hammer, it actually stops. They wanted to have no more moving parts, so there's no mass moving during the firing process of the firearm. Because the hammer's located down in this area, there is no mass moving above that bore axis. Again, making the gun more shootable, less recoil, less muzzle flip. So it is a single action, double action. So if this doesn't rotate when I'm firing, how do I get into single action? As I stated before, because it's a linkage to the hammer, we can go ahead and pull that back, and we can get this firearm into a single action firing mode. Now, when we're here, you're gonna see there's a little red dot, that cylinder that comes up out of the top of the receiver, and what that's telling you is that you are in the single action firing position, and your trigger pull is gonna be insanely light and short, okay? Now, just like a traditional revolver, if we wanna take this out of single firing and back into a double action mode, all we do is pull our lever to the rear, depress the trigger, write it down like we would on a standard revolver. As you can see, that single action indicator is gone and the gun is back into double action mode. So what makes these guns so great is how solid they are built and how shootable they are. Specifically, this Rhino, White Rhino 200DS would make a phenomenal EDC gun. If you're cool with 6 rounds at 357, but you want a really, really solid firing system, a very shootable gun up close, this is absolutely an option that you should be looking at. If you have any questions about Chiappa Rhinos or the Chiappa Bulldogs, please come down and see me down here at Firearms Unknown. I could talk about these guns for hours. Until next time, you guys take care.